Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell and welcome back to the 12 Games of Christmas. As we continue to make these videos, each of them is a list of 12 games from a different category. And we're telling you these are games we recommend that you can get. And we did our best to pick games that are available now. Sometimes from the publishers, somewhere online. A good place to check out would be Game Nerds. They have a great selection of games for fantastic prices. So we got 12 games to talk about today, but before we get into that, we want to say thanks to our sponsor, the World Series of Board Gaming. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that coming up this coming September, well, next September in 2023, where there's going to be 16 ring events where people are coming to become the championship of Splendor, of Great Western Trail, of Dune Imperium, and 9 other different games. And the winners of those will then face off. And then the winners of those will face off in a championship for $25,000. I'm going to be there this year, and I hope some of you all come out too. And if you can't make it for some reason, we're also going to be streaming the finales of each of these games, or many of the games, on the Dice Tower channel itself. That's right, we're going to be able to there with commentary from different people, and we hope that you can enjoy and watch it from home. But if you can make it, you get to participate in some fun tournaments. There's a whole lot of extra stuff beyond the tournaments that you can be involved with. It is a great time. Check out more information at the link in the description of this video. And we also have a contest for this. And so check that out. It's either in our family games or our strategy games. You can find out the details, enter a contest where you can win and go to this. All right, well today we're talking about thematic games. These are games with great themes. You know, sometimes that theme might be hack and slash through a dungeon. And sometimes that theme might be, hey, I'm in a courtroom. What are we talking about? Well, let's take a look at these 12 games. Here we go.
Let's kick off the thematic list with a board game that recreates, in a very clever way, a video game. This is called Sniper Elite, the board game. This is what's a one versus many game where one player takes the role of Carl Fairburn, the sniper, sneaking around this map trying to stay hidden, a lot of tense pressure on him. The other players are trying to hunt him down and smoke him out and take him out. There's a lot of pressure on both sides. One of my favorite things about this particular game is that both sides are powerful. Both sides have guns and can take each other out. You want to try to avoid open firefights if you are the sniper sneaking around, and you want to complete a couple of objectives. If you're the other team, you're trying to keep those objectives safe, but you also need to be on the hunt, otherwise the sniper is going to sneak right past you. This has a lot of great tension, a lot of great theme in it, so that's Sniper Elite, the board game.
Another thematic game here is Dune Imperium. Dune Imperium is a worker placement / deck building game that also has some awesome area control combat mechanics that basically you're trying to go out and get different resources, whether it be spice or water, to be able to basically gain influence and get to 10 points. It's very thematic overall just because it has all of the different house factions that you're trying to influence, and that can be a big way to get a lot of your points for the game. And then the deck building aspect of the game, the fact that it kind of limits the different ways and the different places you can play on the board, and there's all the different characters. You have different asymmetrical factions that you start the game out with. If you have a fan of Dune or just a fan of that style of game in general, they would really enjoy Dune Imperium. I've had a blast playing it. It's always fun, tense game, trying to figure out the best way to figure out the locations you want to go to. Sometimes it feels very limiting, but it's very rewarding when you're able to pull off some really cool combos. So yeah, Dune Imperium is another great thematic game.
For fans of Marvel Comics or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Dice Throne is a fantastic pick. In this one, you are going to pick a hero or maybe a villain. Loki is included in this. You will unfold their main board and you are pretty much ready to go. You're going to be throwing dice, you're going to be drawing and playing cards. You are going to be trying to set up different combos to take down your opponent. You take their life total all the way down to 0, you win the game. And these characters feel very thematic. You want to be Black Panther, you are going to have that suit that puts out energy. And so as you take hits, as you build up that energy, you can eventually pull off something amazing. You want to be Loki, you'll have some trickery at your disposal where your opponent never knows where the real you is. And there are lots of things like that. So this is a great one if you like the Marvel characters, if you want something that is lighthearted and quick-paced, you want to roll some dice, very Yahtzee style, and again, manipulate that with some cards. So very fun, kind of bombastic and silly and over the top, but a really great flavor and fun and just an immersive experience. That is Marvel Dice Throne.
The next game has a very interesting theme. It's called Voices in My Head. And in this game, there is a person who is on trial for just some crime. Not that big of a deal, except you are one of the voices in this person's head. Basically, you are their guilty conscience, or you are their selfishness in their head. Think like Inside Out, that type of thing. And you are trying to make the trial, make the jurors say your person's innocent. And so your person's going to be asked some questions, and you're trying to steer it to that. The game also has, if you ever went to the arcades and you drop a coin in and you watch the coins all get pushed to the edge and some of them fall out, if you get lucky, that's what this game does. You're pushing little tokens on here, trying to knock other people's tokens out so you can control different sections of this person's brain. It's very silly, but it's a fun game and brings in a unique, humorous take on a little bit of a courtroom drama. Definitely worth checking out. That's Voices in My Head.
Next up for thematic games is Mosaic. Now, the theme in Mosaic is one of a civilization building game. There are a lot of civilization building games that are on the board game market, but Mosaic stands apart in the sense of abundance. This is a game that really feels like you are building, you are progressing. Everything you do is pushing your civilization forward. And there are different ways to approach this topic, no one necessarily better than others, but Mosaic is one where it's less of a focus on direct conflict with other players or things that you've built being torn down, and more, again, about progressing your civilization forward. That's a particularly fun way to approach this theme, in my opinion. And so if the gamer that you're shopping for likes to build stuff and likes to have this big sprawling something they've created on the map by the end of the game, Mosaic is a game that you should check out.
All right, our next suggestion for thematic games is a really unique theme here, I think. We're going to be talking about In Too Deep. In Too Deep, you are working against this evil syndicate who's trying to increase criminal activity and take over different cities and really just destroy the infrastructure here. But the real hook of this is, the hook of this is each of your turns, you're going to be hooking into different criminals to use them to try to take down the syndicate. So you have to have a hand of management, and you're really trying to further relationships with certain criminals as you hook into them over and over again and increase your reputation with them in order to complete different objectives to ultimately take down the syndicate. The theme in here is not only unique, it's so very well integrated into it. It can take a little bit to kind of wrap your head around at the beginning, but once you get it, it absolutely comes to life and just really shines. So a really unique theme, a really well integrated theme, In Too Deep. Check it out.
Next on the list is Destinies, and this was my absolute most favorite game of last year. It has such a fun, overarching storyline to each one of the scenarios, as well as some really cool competitiveness between the players. It's app-based, and so that means that you can go around and you can actually interact with people on the map. You can go to the forge and work a little bit for money, or you can rough somebody up and try to get some information from them. It's fun. It definitely reminds me of a kind of role-playing game, but instead as a board game in the nice board game package. So anyways, Destinies, so much fun, great thematicness, tons of fun fantasy, kind of spooky, creepy stuff, as well as just really cool magicalness. So, love Destinies, and I highly recommend it.
This next one is for those who like cooperative games and Star Wars. This is Star Wars: The Clone Wars, in which you are going to be taking on the mantle of a famous Jedi, a powerful character, and fighting droids flying around different planets, trying to stop a specific villain, up to you, who you choose when you set up the game, from completing their main objective. You'll be fulfilling missions, committing cards to various tests, rolling dice in which you are fighting these droids, and ultimately cooperating with the other Jedi at the table, trying to win. It's very cool, very thematic. It's got a nice amount of flavor. If you know the Star Wars lore, and especially the Clone Wars time period of it, you're really going to find a lot in here that is going to be to your liking. It's a game that moves along at a nice clip too, so it's going to be easy to get into with someone who is not much of a gamer that just happens to really like Star Wars. So I would very much recommend Star Wars, The Clone Wars. If you enjoy that idea, I think you're going to have a great time with it.
All right, a thematic game for the Lord of the Rings fans out there. This is Journeys in Middle-earth. So Journeys in Middle-earth is an app-driven game that feels in the vein of a game like Mansions of Madness, where it's very story-driven, lots of theme going on, but this game has a campaign in it. You're going to be playing a character from the Lord of the Rings story, or just Middle-earth in general, and you're going to be basically having a deck. They're trying to do different skill checks and go around and uncover different mysteries or different things, trying to figure out exactly what you're supposed to be doing in the campaign, and then you're going to be upgrading that character throughout the different games and being able to have all sorts of different skills and abilities to kind of help you get through the story. There's different modes you can play in this game. You can play on normal or you can play in easy. So if you want to play the game super casual and just enjoy the Lord of the Rings theme, that's awesome too as well. I've never played in the hardcore mode, but if you have a gamer that's like really likes a cooperative game to be punishing, you could play that as well. So this kind of has everything for a Lord of the Rings fan here, and the minis are pretty cool looking too. So if you have somebody who likes Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth is another great thematic game.
Now, how can we talk about really thematic games without having an adventure game, right? We're going to talk about Forgotten Waters, and I would recommend it to people who like pirate games, who like the adventure games, who kind of like that open world, but also like little shenanigans as well. Into Deep does utilize a website in order to further this along. That is what is going to manage the story aspects of this. So you will go out on a shared board and make decisions on how to sail around the ship, maybe collecting different resources, trying to further the story, complete different objectives, avoiding other pirate ships, getting into some combat. Everyone's participating in this. What I think is fantastic about this game as well is that it can play up to 7 players, and it plays very, very well. In fact, I would recommend this more for those higher player counts, for that 5, 6, and 7 player counts even. It's fantastic. You are acting as pirates. There's going to be moments where you're acting in your own self-interest, but ultimately, if the ship goes down, everyone goes down with it. So you have to cooperate. Some great fun moments. If you know somebody who likes pirates or again likes that adventure, cooperating but a little bit selfish at times, check out Forgotten Waters.
Next up on the thematic games list is Final Girl. If you know somebody on your list that likes scary movies, horror movies, especially the classic kind of slasher movies from the 80s and the 90s, then Final Girl is a fantastic option. This is a solitaire game, a one-person player, one-player only game where you are playing as a final girl, which is a classic horror movie trope, where you are trying to be the last survivor against some type of killer. And the way that the game works is that it's a modular system game where you've got your core box and then you've got a series of feature films, they call them. And these are basically based around some familiar feeling horror movies. So something that feels a little bit like Freddy Krueger, something that feels a little bit like Jason, and it allows you to play in that kind of sandbox. So if you know somebody that loves scary movies, horror movies, this is a fantastic game to get them. That is Final Girl.
Our last thematic game here is Chronicles of Crime, and I'm going to be very specific here and say Chronicles of Crime 2400. Now, Chronicles of Crime, there's many different versions of this. It's a game in which you work together with some other people, or you can play it by yourself, where you're trying to solve a mystery, a crime. You're a detective going out, and you will be scanning QR codes. In 2400, which takes place in the future, you are not only doing that, but occasionally you jump into the net, you jack into the net. You have Android parts that let you maybe sniff and tell if someone's lying to you. Or maybe you can shock somebody, hopefully they give you more information. Shock the wrong person, and that can go poorly for you. So it has a very cyberpunk feel, if you like Neuromancer and things like that. This game really leans hard into that theme, where you're both dealing with criminals and suspects in the real world and interrogating and talking to different people, but you're also jumping into the virtual world and dealing with people there. And sometimes you wonder, is that person I'm talking to, that big burly guy there, is actually this lady that I met over here who's running this arms dealership? It really comes together. It's my favorite of all these. The cases are interesting. And if you get bored with them, people have custom brew ones that you can download and play. There's just so much in there. I like all the Chronicles of Crimes games, but this one, set in the year 2400, is just fun to me because I like that whole cyberpunk theme, but the gameplay and choices are also very interesting and entertaining. And so that's that, and that is also the end of today's list of thematic games. Hopefully we've given you 12 different cool games that you can check out and buy for your loved ones or yourself. Either way, thanks so much for watching. I want to do a shout out to our sponsors, the World Series of Board Gaming, and a shout out to you all for watching these. Have a very Merry Christmas. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell, and you've been watching 12 Games at Christmas here on the Dice Tower.